what they do is they go over, again, from last module, the junctions, because there are a couple junctions that are really important for the integument system. And those are the what? There's two junctions. Hemizones and hemidesmosomes and desmosomes. Why are those important?
Because they anchor the cell and keep it together.
Exactly. They're anchoring tissue and holding tissue in place, right? Well, if you have a bunch of cells together, that makes up. A bunch of cells make up what? Tissue. A whole bunch of tissue together make up
Organ.
an organ. And a bunch of organs together get a system. Exactly. So you don't want those things falling apart. You have to do certain things in a very specific order. What happens if we have our own body destroying our desmosomes and hemidesmosomes?
You have an autoimmune, which isn't good.
Autoimmune disease called pemphigus. Okay. Think of this as modern day leprosy. Instead of whole body parts falling off, this is just where the skin peels, bubbles, blisters, kind of like a really bad sunburn, and then just peels and falls off. Okay. So it's pretty bad. So we just wanted to kind of give you a basis of last module, desmosomes, hemidesmosomes. Kind of think, okay, how they get together. But then they're going to go over the basic structure. What is the basic structure or parts of the skin? Right. Epidermis, dermis, subcutaneous, or hypodermis. Okay. What does hypo mean?
Low.
Low or
Underneath?
under.
Okay.
Under normal, below normal. So it can be a level or location. Okay. So you have the three levels. What is found in the most superficial layer? That's the epidermis. And what is in the epidermis?
Dead, whatever they're called cells, keratite cells.
Simple squamous? Stratified squamous. Okay. We call them keratinocytes. What else do we call them? Very top, most superficial layer of the epidermis, we call it what? Corneocytes. Okay. Are they also keratinocytes? Yes. Okay. Are they also, what's another way to describe the top layer? Dead. Okay. What are the dead cells or squams? Okay. That's when it falls, that's actually when it falls off, is a squam. Okay. How do I get you to say this here? What are those dead cells full of? Keratin. Okay. It's a keratinized layer. What's the very top keratinized layer? Exactly. Keratinized stratified squamous. Okay. That's another way of describing the skin. The epidermis of your skin is stratified or keratinized stratified squamous tissue. Okay, so that epithelium has how many layers? Excuse me, epidermis has how many layers? 5. In
4.
thick skin. And in thin skin, how many?
4.
4. Okay, which one's the missing layer in thin skin? Lucidum. Exactly. Okay, and where do we find lucidum in thick skin? Or where do we find thick skin? palms of our hands, and the soles of our feet. Very good. So if I want to go deepest layer to the most superficial layer, how do they go? Start with deepest, basal or basal, either way.
Spinosome, spinosum,
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 granulosum, in thick skin
Lucidum.
is lucidum, and then finally corneum,
So lucidum is found in thick skin, right?
only in thick skin.
Did anyone else like the anagram, the Cher likes getting skin Botox?
Whichever one helps you.
That's
remember 'em.
awesome.
Actually, when I first read this, I thought the other one was before singing, get legal counsel.
I did the same thing.
Good, I feel so bad. And if you knew my singing, you'd understand why I thought that. So that's how I always remember now, so before singing, get legal counsel. But, very good, so know those layers. You're gonna have to be able to identify them on the picture on 355, as well as know them, if I say, above the more superficial to the granulosum layer would be the,
More superficial to granulosum?
yeah, more superficial granulosum would be,
Lucidum.
right, well, it would say in thick skin,
Okay.
yeah, or in thin skin. Well, in thick skin, it's gonna be what?
Lucidum.
Lucidum. In thin skin, it's gonna be
Corneum.
corneum. Exactly. So be able to identify the different layers of the epidermis, as well as in a picture or in question, like I just asked. The picture on 353 would be a very good diagram to be able to label. One thing we don't really talk a lot about, but in the dermis layer, we have almost the smallest muscle in the body, which is called the erector pili, and what's its function?
To move the hair.
Exactly. Raises and lowers the hair follicle. Very good. Okay. So be able to identify those. How many keratinocytes do we shed per hour?
6,000, 600,000.
600,000 per person per hour.
Do we need to know that?
Yeah. So you think about it, there's 3, 6, 9 of us in here. We're in here for 2 hours. That's 1.2 million per person. So 10.8 million squames will be shed in this room by the time we leave tonight.
So I had a friend tell me that because of this, older, like oiled mattresses are heavy,
Yeah.
and that's why.
Yep, that's why the mattresses get heavier and heavier because of all your oils and dead skin cells, and all the mites that collect to eat your dead skin cells.
And we're going, how they move?
Exactly, it's a brand new 10-year-old mattress.
So wear gloves when we help people move.
No, yeah, that doesn't gross me. I don't know why, but it's just a fact of life. You breathe it every day. You sit in a class, how many hours a day with 30 plus students? You're inhaling all that.
Just don't think about it.
And you pick your nose, pick my booger. All right, but what did we say back? What was that, about 2/3 of dust in your house is dead skin cells?
I read that.
Yeah. So 2/3 of the dust in your house is dead skin cells. All right, so those are squames, 600,000 an hour. The lucidum gives us what kind of skin? Thick skin. There's a chart there on 356, but that's only half of the chart. The rest of the chart, 373, I want to say. 372. It goes over thick and thin skin, even in more in depth. You need to know the one on 372. In other words, you need to know the whole chart, not just the half chart. You need to know locations, when they come about, where you find them, what's on them, what's not on them, things of that effect. Does that make sense? So anything on that chart is fodder for questions.
The thickness too? on
Yes,
that?
the thicknesses too. The 0.1 to 0.5 or 1.5, 0.10 to 0.15, or the 6.6 to 4.5. So you can see, when you look at the picture, they don't look that much thicker, that lucidum, but it actually is pretty thick, up to 4.5 millimeters. So that's the lucidum that does that. So know your differences between your thick and thin skin. And what's another name for thick skin? Glabrous. Very good. What are the 4 cells that we find in the epidermis that are not made from the basal layer? Oh, I should say that. From stratum basal stem cells. 3 type. There's one. There are 4 cells in the epidermis that you need to know about. Keratinocytes is one. Melanocytes, Langerhans cells, and Merkel discs. Okay. What does the keratinocyte do?
Waterproof?
Waterproofs, exactly. It makes the skin so that you don't absorb water like a diaper when you get into a pool. Okay. Waterproofs the skin. What about a melanocyte? Pigment colors. And what does pigment do for you? UV protection.
So it absorbs the UV, right?
Right, absorbs the UV so it doesn't harm you. The Langerhans cells, immune system, and then your Merkel discs, light touch. Think of Merkel discs as when someone like rubs a feather over your skin. It's just a very, very light touch. You can feel something crawling on your back or something like a fly lands on you. You can feel it. Okay, that's the Merkel disc. Someone comes up and just kind of touches you, lightly touches you. What would that be? Meissner. It's a little bit more. It's not the really light touch. It's more of a tactile, we call it. Like you touching something. Something touching you. No problem. Okay. So that's the difference between your Merkel discs and your Meissner corpuscles. Is the depth of the touch. What about really hard touching? Grabbing and holding on really tight. Pacinian corpuscles, also known as lamellated corpuscles. Pacinian lamellated corpuscles. Very good. So you've got the Merkel discs that are very, very light touch. You have the Meissner that is tactile, is touching, but little, people touching, you touching, things that touching. And then you have the Pacinian, which is deep, hard, deep pressure. Okay, and where are those found? Kind of makes sense.
So the dermis.
Right, the most deep layer of the dermis. Okay, so for it to be stimulated, you have to have probably pretty good pressure to get all the way down there to those, at the end of the dermis, between the dermis and the sub-Q. Whereas where are your tactile, or excuse me, your